Bold prediction. Caleb Williams will account for 5,000 yards this season. A quick look at your favorite sports book will tell you they'll take that bet. So today, we'll play a game of if then to determine if Caleb breaks through in year two, which Bears seek to gain the Lions' share of targets, what that means for the team in fantasy, and why the over-under isn't beating around the bush about how the Bears will fare in 2025. But first, let's take a step back to last year's draft where it all started. QBs drafted in the same class are forever linked. Comparison is the thief of joy, and nothing stole the soul of Bears faithful everywhere more than the now infamous Fail Mary. The Bears went on to lose 10 straight, and the Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game, courtesy of the success of number 2 overall pick and eventual Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. A quick snapshot of their season shows some clear similarities and obvious differences. Daniels amassed nearly twice as many yards on the ground, 11 more total TDs, a higher completion percentage at a higher clip, all while taking 21 less sacks. However, he did so at the same average on the ground with less than 30 more yards through the air. The struggle that was the O-line and coaching staff revealed Caleb's lack of production was more a lack of opportunity than ability to produce. A deeper look at their work on the ground shows with 50% more reps over the season, Daniels managed to average 7 attempts 13 times, while Caleb only did so twice. In spite of that handicap, Caleb still ran for a first down a dozen times, only one fewer than Jaden. The pressure to perform this year is squarely on 18's shoulders, but his new, first-time head coach has come in with defibrillators to jolt this stagnant franchise back to the prominence their fan base deserves. Pressure placed in one spot can break anything down, but spreading it around using proper support can make even the greatest weight manageable. To take the load off Caleb's shoulders, Ben has hand-picked his cabinet of coordinators and coaches to elevate the standards at every position so focusing on play calling can be his only concern. But before this thing can take flight, they must claim the baggage left behind by the previous regime. While it wasn't all bad, much of it was, and most of it came from the offense. Dead last in sacks surrendered, 5th worst through the air, 7th worst passing TDs, and 8th worst on the ground. Stalled drives became their calling card. The defense struggled stopping the rock as well, conceding the 5th most yards and 8th most touchdowns. The silver lining was getting to their quarterback, yards through the air, and passing TDs, ranking in the top 10, top 15, and number 1 respectively. Teamwork makes the dream work, but when the message falls flat and timeouts are saved like leftovers, you wind up 5-12. To make sure the defense stays the bright spot of this team till the offense gels, Ben brought in former Saints head coach Dennis Allen as his new DC. Over 23 years coaching in the NFL, 18 former players have combined for 36 Pro Bowl selections, 2 AP NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year winners, 3 Hall of Famers, and he won Super Bowl 44 with the Saints. In his last season as DC, the Saints ranked first in opponent red zone TD percentage, number 2 in opponent first downs, and opponent rushing first downs. New Orleans' streak of 22 regular season and postseason contests without allowing a 100-yard rusher at the end of the season was the longest in the NFL. Solidifying the run defense will take this unit to the next level and help relieve the need for the offense to be spectacular early. In spite of significant injuries, the Lions of last year managed to finish top 5 in yards allowed, blitzes, and hurries, all categories the Bears held down near the bottom of the league. The lone bright spot was in tackles for loss, a spot the Lions dropped to 28th in, aided no doubt by the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. To help DA, Ben brought in a healthy mix of youth and experience to cover the coaching gamut, and shaping the playmakers in the middle will be left to Richard Smith to lead the linebacking core. With nearly 4 decades NFL coaching experience himself, during his 4 seasons with Denver, the Broncos ranked 3rd in the league in rushing defense, 4th in third down defense, and 7th in total defense over that span. The Pro Bowl linebackers under him include Zaire Franklin, Denzel Perryman, Thomas Davis Sr., Von Miller, John Beeson, D'Amico Ryan, and Ken Norton Jr. With his influence, the first KPI to Caleb 5K starts on the other side of the ball, with the defense ranking in the middle of the league, grounding the run game. Whether it's Green Bay, Minnesota, or Detroit, the NFC North will be won by the team best equipped to limit the damage done by the opposing QB. A strength last year, looking to get stronger, is the DB room, now led by former Packer and All-Pro cornerback Al Harris. A 15-year veteran himself, he spent the last several years coaching the Dallas DBs to the most interceptions since 2021. During his time in Kansas City, he led the Chiefs DBs to top 10 finishes in 5 of 6 seasons. Even the strongest unit needs time to catch its breath, and nothing's worse than watching a good defense get worn down because the offense can't move the sticks. With several key additions in both free agency and the draft, the O-line looks primed to keep Caleb clean, open lanes for the run game, and buy the time to throw dimes all over the field. Since 2022, the Bears have been inconsistent controlling the clock, an issue that reared its ugly head during crucial moments on multiple occasions last year. The Lions have done the opposite, increasing time of possession year over year since Ben took hold of the reins. A prolific ground game, supported by accurate passing and competent coaching, leaves little surprise. Bears fans are excited to see that on the home team sideline. To help handle the O-line, Ben brought even more experience in the form of O-line coach Dan Rouchard. With over 40 years coaching in the college and the pros in multiple positions, during 5 years leading the O-line, they ranked number 1 in scrimmage yards per game and points per game. In both 2017 and 2018, the Saints gave up the second fewest sacks league-wide, despite using 6 different lineups and 9 different linemen. With the left tackle competition the talk of training camp, knowing the line can thrive, regardless who occupies Caleb's blind side, is another key piece of the puzzle. The second KPI to Caleb 5K is controlling the ball between 31 and 32 minutes per game. While the line is meant to keep the QB upright and drive the D-line in reverse, it takes the backs to bounce off tackles when contact comes to keep the clock moving forward. While the Lions are losing Ben and several other coaches, Ben is losing his dynamic backfield duo of Sonic and Knuckles. On top of a stalwart line, Ben's offensive genius and affinity for play action requires a strong running back core to convince the D to bite on pass plays and punish tacklers on runs. In Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery did so with speed and power that combined for top 5 finishes in broken tackles and yards after contact, with their 29 TDs second only to the boys in Baltimore. With much improved personnel and coaching, the Bears look to forget how inept the ground attack was in 2024. Lead back DeAndre Swift nearly eclipsed 1,000 yards in a down year, but required more than 3 times the attempts per broken tackle as his peers with similar roles. In fact, of 281 qualifying ball carriers, Swift finished dead last in total EPA. To bring toughness back to the backfield, Ben brought in Eric Bieniemy as the team's new running back coach. His fiery presence and influence helped transform the Kansas City Chiefs into annual contenders during his 10-year tenure as both running back coach and offensive coordinator, reaching the postseason on 9 occasions, claiming 7 AFC West division titles, appearing in 5 straight AFC Championship games, with 3 trips to the Super Bowl, winning twice. The cast of notable players he's coached reads like fantasy royalty, with every player undoubtedly part of eventual league winners over the years. In his 5 seasons with Minnesota, leading the running backs, the Vikings produced a 1,000-yard rusher each year, while his stable of running backs broke the 100-yard mark 31 times in 80 regular season games. Another new addition, looking to be a tough takedown this season, is former Rutgers running back Kyle Monangai, who the Bears took in the 7th round. Despite being a late-round selection, Kyle led the Big Ten in rushing with 1,200-plus yards in back-to-back seasons, while forcing the most missed tackles. His 139 was 48 more than second place. In nearly 700 career attempts, he's never fumbled the ball and is an elite pass blocker for his size. Can Bieniemy tap into a quarter century's worth of success and turn this committee into a three-headed monster of the midway? KPI number 3 says 10 to 16 attempts per broken tackle will go a long way to making Caleb 5K a fantasy turned reality. Fighting for more yards wasn't restricted to the run game, and Detroit's aerial attack was even more potent, extending plays. With 200 more yards after catch on the season than second place finisher Tampa Bay, Coach Johnson designed looks with his guys in mind, and Goff put the ball where they could use their elusiveness to put points on the board. The Bears may have ranked 18th overall, but outside of DJ Moore's sixth best Yak performance, no Bears receiver ranked in the top 80. Odunze was at 85, Allen 92, Kmet at 116. To get the best from their underutilized trio of talent, Ben brought his wide receiver coach with him, the ever-energetic Antoine Randall L. Along the ride for the Lions' rise during the last 3 years as wide receiver coach, Randall L. was a collegiate All-American quarterback while also playing baseball and basketball for the Hoosiers. He's gone down in history as the first wide receiver ever to throw a touchdown in the Super Bowl, which he won then as a player and again on the sideline for the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. To keep Caleb's completion rate near 70%, he will have to settle for more accurate throws closer to the line of scrimmage. This year, DJ won't be the only threat after the catch, as Ryan Poles gave Ben more pieces to play with in the form of second-rounder Luther Burden III and Olamide Zaccheaus. Last season, LB3 led all FSB wide receivers in broken tackles on only 61 receptions. He is one of only 6 SEC wide receivers to post 1,200 or more yards as a freshman or sophomore. The rest of that list includes Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Alshon Jeffrey, Jerry Jeudy, and Jamar Chase. Burden will be replacing the recently departed Keenan Allen, who recorded just one broken tackle over 70 catches last year. According to Pro Football Reference, since 2017, Allen has recorded just 17 broken tackles at a rate of 38.3. To put that into perspective, Odunze's rate of 13.5 was the lowest among all Bears wide receivers, logging 4 broken tackles over his 54 catches. To match LB3's total at Mizzou, in a down year, Rome would have had to catch 405 balls to match Burden. Adding to this year's Yak monster is Olamide Zaccheaus, who will be the first player to catch passes from both top 2 picks in the 2024 draft after playing alongside Jaden last season in D.C. As the wide receiver 2, opposite Terry McLaurin, OZ managed just 8 fewer yards after the catch than the Pro Bowl wide receiver 1 on 200 less routes run. In fact, last year, OZ had the second most Yak for players with less than 50 receptions while having the second least routes run league-wide. He tied Deebo Samuel with the league's lowest broken tackle rate at 6.4. Now that we know the supporting pieces in place to aid with Caleb's breakthrough, we'll focus on the most important piece of this fascinating puzzle, the QB-coach relationship. You can't talk about Ben's rise in the ranks without mentioning the quarterback he pulled from number 1 overall flop to the darling of Detroit, Jared Goff. As the tight ends coach and passing game coordinator in 2021, Ben's ability to influence the team's success in Detroit was limited to the capacity of his role. In 2022, head coach Dan Campbell promoted Ben to offensive coordinator, and the results speak for themselves. In 2021, the Lions won just 3 games and gave up nearly 150 more points than they scored. In just 1 year under Ben's guidance, they won 9 games, finishing with a positive differential that was nearly 170 points higher than the year prior. In Chicago, his first time as head coach sees the offense in a similar state, while the defense is considerably better. Losing several close games by 1 score the year before means the foundation to compete is there. A squad desperate for direction and a staff whose focus on details borders insane means Ben can bend the offense to his will while DA takes the defense to their next plateau. Another positive sign is the lack of negativity from those not opposed to throw shade this way. Before the 2022 season, the Lions were ranked near the top in terms of O-line, the bottom with the D-line, and blessed with one of the best schedules on paper. The 2025 Bears fare well on offense, middle of the pack on D, but have the second toughest schedule, largely based on a stout division and road games against playoff contenders a year ago. The supporting cast from 2022 saw the Bears' current running back as Detroit's second leading receiver, a position likely to fall to fourth or fifth given Chicago's embarrassment of riches. Year 7 for Goff saw him return to the form deserving of the first overall pick in the draft, with less weapons than Williams has at his painted fingertips. Year 2 for Caleb is linked to Ben's first rodeo as head coach, and if his first go-round as OC is any indication of what year 1 as HC will be, prepare for fireworks the Lakeside has never seen. An outcast from a Rams team that immediately won a chip with his replacement, Jared Goff was welcomed with open arms to a city similarly unfamiliar with the sound of success. A 5-win team the year prior, Goff's first year in the Motor City finished with less wins than 2020 and worse stats than Caleb's 2024. A year later, and Goff goes off for 1,200 more yards, 10 TDs, and a dozen less sacks without more interceptions. One of the men alongside Ben for the rise in production was former Ohio State standout J.T. Barrett, the Bears' new quarterback coach. Under his guidance, Goff saw an increase in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and QBR, three metrics Caleb ranked in the bottom 10 of the league. He is still OSU's all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns, while being credited with helping design the Lions' trick plays. Just like Jaden before, a side-by-side comparison of 2022 Goff shows glaring differences and identical results. In terms of passing EPA, Jared was second, only behind Pat Mahomes, while Caleb was fifth worst among qualifying QBs. Rush EPA was a different story, as Goff's pocket presence left him seventh worst in scramble percentage versus Caleb's top 10 finish. The common theme between them was getting rid of the ball without turning it over, each ranking dead last in poor throws and throwaways. To fill the gap between player and coach, the Bears brought in veteran journeyman Case Keenum. A prolific passer in college, he still holds FSB records in career passing yards, completions, and touchdowns. A non-threat to both Caleb and number 2 Tyson Bagent's backup role, Case will bring a professional demeanor to an otherwise young QB room with a skill set to step up and show how it's done when the ones and twos struggle during camp. Coach Johnson is known for designing his game plan around his talent, and that's highlighted by the discrepancy between calling play action and RPO when your quarterback lacks wheels. When Goff struggles, it tends to start with pressure up front, as he is not a threat to escape containment when the pocket collapses. Defenses know this, and during Ben's tenure, Detroit was dead last in RPO while Goff was top half in both pressures and sacks taken. Ben's decision to choose Chicago has to include the options now available to him in terms of play design, knowing his QB's mobility will cause problems for opposing defenses. Caleb nearly accounted for all of Goff's 2022 rushing yards in Week 10 of last year alone, one of only 2 times he had 7 or more attempts in a game. In fact, Caleb is already just 62 yards shy of Goff's 9-year career rushing total in a year he required most of those yards running for his life. KPI number 4 on the road to Caleb 5K is give him the same opportunities other dual threat quarterbacks get league-wide. 7 tries, designed or otherwise, per game. Over 17 games, 7 attempts falls just shy of 120 tries and smack dab in the middle of the men on this list. At last year's clip of 6 yards per carry, Caleb would wind up third in total yards. Creative play design and decoys who block mean the Rock finally gets into the end zone and that goose egg from last year goes away. Speaking of blocking, only a few tight ends ranked worse last year than the Bears' longest tenured player, Cole Kmet. Number 8 on the league's highest paid tight end list, the team's struggles spilled over into his production, falling to 25th overall. But it wasn't a matter of availability, as Komet led all tight ends in snaps and catching rate, in spite of seeing the 23rd least targets on a target share ranked dead last among all starters. The name at the top of that highest paid list is held by Arizona Cardinals tight end Trey McBride, who last year alone saw the second most targets at 147, or two more than Komet has seen the last 2 years combined. Like Caleb on the ground, Trey had trouble finding the end zone in spite of lots of looks, while Cole still has 8 more TDs at a higher rate. While Chicago retained the services of tight end coach Jim Dre, Ben chose another old soul with a fresh face to help shape Komet into the league leader he can be. Insert Declan Doyle, the 28-year-old new offensive coordinator who spent his last 6 years following the tutelage of then Saints and now Denver head coach Sean Payton. Before that, he was a student assistant during his time at Iowa University, commonly known around the league as TEU. Cole deserves the opportunity to put his talents on tape, and sending 5 shots his way a game is KPI number 5 to Caleb 5K. At this rate, he'll still be below his counterparts, but his top rate reliability would have him finish in line yardage-wise with the way he's paid. Much to many people's surprise, including Cole's, was the Bears spending first-round draft capital on one of the 2 top-ranked tight ends in this year's class. With size, strength, and a wide receiver skill set, former 4-star recruit Colston Loveland looks to become Ben's new Sonic to pair with Komet's knuckle approach and be a dangerous move F-type tight end in 12 personnel sets. Watching the tape, many thought Penn State tight end Tyler Warren might be Chicago's choice, including myself. Upon further review, it's clear to see why Ben decided otherwise, as Warren's skill set is too similar and would render Komet's redundant. Remember O-line coach Dan Richard? Well, in his 4 decades of experience, he spent multiple stints as tight end coach. In 2015, he helped Ben Watson set highs in catches, yards, and TDs. Most recently, alongside Doyle and Sean Payton with the Saints, where in 2022, he helped transition Juwan Johnson from wide receiver to tight end, winding up leading the team in touchdowns. What Ben is working toward is nothing new. In fact, several successful teams spend much of their time abusing defenses with 2 tight end sets, overwhelming them in the run game while exploiting linebackers and DBs through the air. The latest standard of that excellence takes us back to Baltimore, where the success of the ground game featuring Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is due in no small part to the tandem of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. The Ravens spent the least amount of time in 11 personnel last year, almost 3 times less than the league average. Andrews led all tight ends with 11 TDs, and Likely's 6 landed him 8th overall, more than Bowers, Njoku, Kelsey, and McBride. Play action doesn't work without the run, and Henry's nearly 2,000 yards kept defenses convinced all season long. Coach Johnson has already referenced the New England Patriots as innovators in offense to aspire to in his journey as head coach. No tight end tandem has ever had the season put up by the pair drafted in the same class back in 2010, Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. In 2011, their 2,200 plus yards and 25 TDs helped Tom Brady surpass 5,000 yards for his first and only time in 20 years as a Patriot. With nearly 350 attempts between them, the trio of BGE, Ridley, and Woodhead give us an idea what the Bears' backfield may be this year. It may sound absurd, but Ben just pulled that off and more, using a lightning bolt the experts said he reached for, and a bruiser the Bears showed the door. Last year, Sonic and Knuckles combined for more than 3,000 yards and 32 TDs, some 770 more yards and 7 more TDs than Gronk and Aaron did in 2011. For more than a century, no Bear quarterback has passed for 4,000 yards in a season. Despite constant chaos, Chicago saw their rookie QB surpass that mark last year when taking into account his yards on the ground. For Caleb to clear 5K, you can expect golf-like numbers from 22, becoming the first Bear with 4,000 yards through the air, and count on his legs to carry the rest. When you combine those numbers with Detroit's target share from last year, you get this: a visual representation of which Bears seek to gain the lion's share of targets in 2025. This offseason, the Bears bolstered both sides of the ball as well as alongside the sideline with the hope of finding more success on the field and in the win column. However, fantasy experts remain skeptical with only two Bears projected to outperform their numbers from last year, being Williams and Odunze. The yellow section shows each player's fantasy projection based on Caleb 5K, with the far right ranking compared to 2024 numbers. Loveland and Roshan line up with the experts, but every other Bear is either way too high or way too low. The realist in me admits this bold prediction may be more on the italicized side, and that's just fine as long as the trade off is more wins in real life. So my final figures see Caleb falling just shy of 5K, but the rest of the team eating well and still aligning with the paid pundits. Compared to last year, that leaves Caleb plus 724 passing yards, or 43 more per game, plus 89 rushing yards at 7 yards per carry equals 81 attempts, or the same he had last year, plus 14 touchdowns, 3 of those by way of the ground, plus 6 interceptions, or twice as many as last year, plus 5.5% increase in completion percentage, and 30 less sacks. Team-wise, DJ and Rome remain at the top 2 spots, finishing with stats similar to last year, while Komet, Burden, and Loveland occupy Tier 2 target share, separated only by 8 receptions. OZ rounds out Tier 2 with respectable wide receiver 4 stats, while the 3 RBs bring up the rear. This adjustment leaves 8 Bears ahead of their numbers from last season, while remaining 6 or less spots away from the experts' projections. Only Komet and OZ are reaches, which again is fine by me. According to these final figures, futures are low on Caleb and Luther Burden and high on DJ, Rome, and Loveland. Surprisingly absent from all futures are the team's tight end 1 and RB1, Komet and Swift. In terms of team success, the books have the Bears at 8.5 wins, a 4th place finish in the North, a coin flip to make or miss the playoffs, and no chance to win the NFC. Homers can double those odds and bet them to win it all, which, if they somehow win the conference, cue Kevin Garnett.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Thanks for watching. If you feel the vibes, please like and subscribe. Be sure to come back and see how wrong we were based on how things play out. This is Uncle Dial Up. Until next time, claws up, bear down.